Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Chapalang Film Podcast. I'm your host, Sepeng. We also have film director and co-host Jonathan Chu.
Hello.
In this episode, we're going to talk about the Oscar films, especially the films that were nominated and won the Oscars. Our guest today is Eternality Tan. So he's a film lecturer at NTU and the vice chairman of the Singapore Film Society. And we're bringing here to talk about the Oscars for a very special reason. I think one of it is because, E.T., you run this annual Oscars prediction.
Yes.
And maybe before we go into that, just for the benefit of our audience, can you do a quick intro of yourself? What do you do?
Sure. Anyway, thanks Sepeng and John for inviting me to this session. So my name is E.T. for short. I've been doing teaching for about 10 years, film studies, all that. And I also run some programs on the side with my own company, the Filmic Eye. And then I also am sort of like being involved with the Singapore Film Society as a programmer. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Yeah.
Since when have you been following the Academy Awards?
Oh, okay. I mean, has been a long time. I would say it was the first time that I actually watched a live telecast of it, Channel 5.
Right.
Was the 2007 one. That was the year when The Departed won.
Departed won, right? I can name you the 5 best pictures that year. The Departed,
great.
The Queen, Babel, United 93, and Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh, nice.
I'm quite a nut when it comes to Oscar trivia.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we all love all the trivia. And all that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so that was the first time I watched a live telecast. So like really waking up early in the morning, 8:30, that kind. But the first time that I got into the Oscars, sort of was in my radar was actually the year before. That was the Brokeback Mountain year.
Yep.
And the crash fiasco. So
yeah, it was really a crash.
So that was the time where it was people were talking about it, and then I got interested, but it was only a year after that I began to watch the telecast. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Have you watched it every year?
I would say if I can, I would do it. I think I missed last year because I was having a class, on Monday morning. So too bad. But in other years, I've been faithfully doing the honors of watching it. So yeah.
Right. I mean, for me, I've never really bothered to watch it live. I only came to know the Oscars when I got interested in film, and even then, there's something about the association that the Oscars have with like mainstream taste that I always avoided. So I think I've paid more attention to like Cannes and Berlin than the Oscars. Yeah.
Sepeng, what are a few examples of Oscar films that kind of make you shudder? You're like,
Well, I don't know. Let me. I need to check.
I can
it's always
name a few.
Yeah, go ahead. Go.
The King's Speech. That's my number one. Even though those films are by all means, not bad, but like the King's Speech, The Artist. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was a crazy year. The Artist was like everywhere.
Yeah. But I also appreciate sometimes the Oscars will do things like nominate David Lynch for Mulholland Drive, Terrence Malick for Tree of Life. They have their edgy moments, even though there are films like The Green Book, but there's always yeah. So like this year, there's also Zone of Interest, much edgier films, Anatomy of a Fall. So I think they do kind of pay attention to what's on the ground and the pulse of global cinema.
Yeah, I feel they've changed a lot over the past 10 years, right? Especially since I feel like a significant change happened when Moonlight won Best Picture. And since then, the Oscars, I think the quality of the films nominated were better.
Yeah. I do think so. From there. But it also doesn't mean that it's kind of opened the door for many edgier films to kind of come in. I think they've always tried to like keep a balance, and it's hard to resist the temptation of a prestige film every now and then. When you have a Spielberg film, there's a good 85% that it will be there. So there are a few things that will still kind of be recurring throughout their traditions.
Yeah, and I think the year that Parasite won Best Picture was probably the most significant year in Oscars history.
That was a great year. That was a really great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
before that was
watershed
probably
moment.
the Moonlight year. Yeah, watershed. Watershed is the right word.
Yeah. But ET, I'm curious to know what are your, because you do this predictions every year, right? And I'm sure you can also tell that the Oscar awards, right, is a build up of many months of campaigning and hype. Even before the awards, right, we can kind of tell a good 60 to 70% of the winners, the hot favorite, and it's very rare that they kind of go out of left field, right? So like what are your thoughts on that, and how do you see this entire picture?
Yeah, and usually it's like you mentioned, it's months of campaigning. Sometimes the people who have the more money will have the more resources to create more buzz and all that. And also certain films are being released at certain times in the year. Usually the films that are released earlier in the year get lesser chances of being nominated because it's not in the immediate memory of recent memory of voters.
Yeah.
But having said that, there have been also films that kind of do the long haul.
Yeah.
Like for example, this year we have Dune Part 2, right?
Yeah.
Coming up like now, like in March.
Yeah.
It's another year to the Oscars. So, whether it will be nominated for Best Picture and all that remains to be said. But it also depends on the kinds of legs that the film has, in the cultural lexicon and all that. So I think Barbie did a great job this year in terms of, being always in the conversation, and it helps with the whole Barbenheimer thing. So
yeah, and also the thing is, it's great that Barbie was nominated for Best Picture, but it makes me angry that the first Dune wasn't nominated for Best Picture.
I think it was nominated for Best Picture, but not Best Director.
Not Best Director. Okay.
The first Dune, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, first Dune.
Yeah, the first Dune.
I think so.
Yeah, if the same thing happens for Dune 2, wow, gonna flip table, man.
I do think that Dune 2 is going to come back and pull off Lord of the Rings: Return of a King and sweep everything. that's my prediction, but you never know, because it's still a long calendar year.
Yeah, I hope so, and for me, Barbie is a fun film. I enjoyed it, but I don't think it's as good, compared to most of the other nominees.
Some of the other nominees, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Something that I also want to observe is, because that's how you talk about campaigning, right? I think over the past, 5 to 10 years, the Venice Film Festival has played a very key role as part of the Oscar campaign. You can argue that the Oscar campaigns starts at the Venice Film Festival.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Venice Film Festival's official selection, more and more films are American films. Very obviously, you have The Joker, right, which won the Golden Lion.
Still surprises me to this day.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. Some days I wake up and I think about it and it's like, wow, this actually happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Poor Things won, I think, the Grand Jury Prize at Venice.
Yeah.
and even like one of my favorite films, Tom Ford's what's his second film? Nocturnal Animals, right? I think
Nocturnal
that also
Animals.
won. Yeah, that's one of my favorite films. Right? Also won the Grand Jury Prize at Venice.
Mm.
Yeah, so I think the Oscar campaign start there because the buzz generates from this huge festival, and then
Yeah.
it runs down to, like, I don't know, is it Toronto Film Festival, and then as it goes to
as well.
yes,
Yeah.
Telluride, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when the year ends, those are the big American festivals, and then it goes to January, and the Oscar campaigns really kick off from there.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, I think we can get started with Best Picture. So obviously,
Sure.
Oppenheimer won, and according to your prediction, you got it.
Yeah.
E.T., maybe you want to quickly describe your Oscar 2024 prediction. You have two categories, right? Will Win and Dark Horse. And
Yeah, so usually I have will win, which is what I think the Academy will pick. Not necessarily my choice, but what I think they will pick. And then Dark Horse is the second choice of the Academy. So
Who is your Dark Horse for Best Picture?
my Dark Horse was actually the Holdovers.
Wow.
One of those films that just came out of nowhere, had some buzz, and then was kind of pushed into the limelight with Best Picture, and with Paul Giamatti, and the original screen. I think he also got an original screenplay, supporting actress, and all that. So if I thought a film might do something to upset Oppenheimer, which is quite impossible, given the momentum of it, it could be the Holdovers.
Right. Sepeng, who was your Dark Horse in this category? I think all of us can agree that we saw Oppenheimer's win coming from above. But who was your Dark Horse?
For me, it was American Fiction. Not because I think it's a great film, but because of this cultural zeitgeist. So I mean, for audiences who don't know, American Fiction tells a story of like an African American novelist / professor. And he writes very sophisticated, nuanced portrayal of like the African American experience, but he's super frustrated that the type of novels that sell are novels that portray very stereotypical African American like behavior and culture. So what he does is, he, under a pseudonym, he writes like the stereotypical black novel, and it goes on to win all sorts of prizes. It got bought by Hollywood to be made into a film, and that crap novel that he wrote as a prank it became like his most successful novel. So it's because of this very timely topic that I thought it might do like a Moonlight kind of thing, because you remember that year, everyone expected La La Land to win. And then suddenly Moonlight came in, and there was that whole drama on stage, right? So for me, my Dark Horse was American Fiction. But in terms of quality, I think Killers of the Flower Moon would be my close second to win Best Picture.
It's very interesting because American Fiction, right, won the Toronto International Film Festival Audience Award, and that's the award that Moonlight won at Toronto International Film Festival. I think so. And actually, a lot of films that win that award, they go on to win Best Picture. Not all of them, but they stand a good chance of being in the conversation. It's like a precursor to the final Oscar contention conversation. So when American Fiction won that award at Toronto, right,
I see.
I was like, oh, what is this film? It came out of nowhere, but I guess it is now going to automatically be in the conversation already. Slumdog Millionaire won that award as well.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. The Fablemans won the award, which is also another different conversation. Why is Spielberg film in Toronto International Film Festival? Yeah. So I think that was interesting. But I also think that because Oscars, right, there's this huge narrative behind it, right? That people are there to kind of expect to see the majority vote win kind of thing. So can you imagine if actually surprise American Fiction win, right? You probably will hear a pin drop, and then they were just like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas there are some years, right, where you are like, okay, the hot favorite is 1917, but I think there is a very, very close chance that Parasite is going to sneak in and take it away. And when that happens, right, you can feel it's like watching football like that. There's catharsis in it. It's like, yes, the right one won, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But I think even if 1917 won instead of Parasite, I still feel okay because 1917 is a great film.
And also because it was being hyped up in the conversation also. So like people kind of expected, okay lah, you won the other major awards, you will win this.
Yeah. And even Moonlight winning over La La Land, it's okay because Moonlight is a great film.
Yeah.
But if American Fiction won, over like Oppenheimer, Maestro, Killers of Flower Moon, I think a lot of people will flip table.
Yeah. But I'm all for it. I'm all for American Fiction win if that actually happened. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about Oppenheimer. I'm pretty sure everyone watching this episode knows what Oppenheimer is, but E.T., could you briefly summarize what Oppenheimer is about?
Sure. I mean, in Oppenheimer, there's this quote, that resonated with me, and also it kind of summarizes the entire film. So the quote is, "Theory will only take you so far." So basically, it's about the guy, right, Oppenheimer, J. Robert Oppenheimer, who became very significant in developing the atomic bomb, right, and in order to go one up against the Nazis, right, in World War II. So, and the film really tells you about the whole development process as well as the aftermath of it, and the whole paranoia over Soviet him being a Soviet spy and things like that in the Cold War. So it's really about I would say the first half of the 20th century, the whole part about it, and it's about science and also about politics. So interesting film, I would say. Yeah.
Right. What do you think is, the kind of appeal in Oppenheimer and in basically cinema last year, and for you, what did Oppenheimer do to you, for you?
I have to firstly confess that I'm a Christopher Nolan fanboy. So
I think all of us here are.
wax lyrical about the film. But having said that, I think Oppenheimer, we all have our favorite Christopher Nolan film. And
What's yours?
For me, it's Inception, because that was a film that really blew my mind, right? And I watched it 3 times in the cinemas, almost like a couple of days, in between only. So I was like really going for that. Oppenheimer, I watched it twice. Once on IMAX, another one on at the projector when they had the English subtitles. So in order for me to better understand because they were speaking really fast, especially in the interrogation scenes and all that. So I think Nolan's style is, I would describe it as a cinema of bombardment. He always bombards you with. It's a very maximalist kind of filmmaking. Whether is it through the music, like opening of Tenet, just having that whole bass sounding thumping music by Ludwig Göransson, just sets up the entire tone and mood of the film.
Right.
So Oppenheimer, we get that kind of very bombarding kind of feeling. But at the same time, he also manages to weave in separate narrative threads as he usually does,
Yep.
and does it in a non-linear way. And there's a kind of structural complexity to it, which I think appeals to cinephiles who sort of prefer a film that kind of doesn't go in a linear, like from A to Z kind of way, right? So in a way, it's a kind of different treatment of the historical biopic. So if you remember historical biopics like Gandhi, all that, those are very linear, mostly quite linear driven.
Yeah.
And there was also a biopic on Mozart, right?
Right.
Milos Forman. And so usually these kinds of biopics are done in a more classical way, but Nolan does it in his own way. I mean, his non-linear way,
Yeah.
and
That's a great point. Like you mentioned all the other biopics, which are typically done in a very straightforward drama. I think, and this is the difficult thing and the genius thing that Nolan came up with, which is how do you turn because after I finished the movie, I went to read the book from which it was adapted, like American Prometheus, The Triumph and Tragedy
nice.
of J.R. Oppenheimer. And it's a thick book, man. It's like 700 plus pages, and it's just dense with detail. And first of all, right, I feel like Oppenheimer should have won Best Adapted Screenplay, but instead, American Fiction won, which I'm also happy about because it's a fun film. That's also a good film. But really, if you go and read the book, and then you read Nolan's screenplay, and then you understand how he transformed the book into the script, it's insane. And I think the difficult thing that Nolan, for me, right, the great thing about this script is, so if you look at it, the film is split into two parts, right? Almost recalls like Memento, in the sense that there's, in general, two plot lines, like two narrative, and one is in color, which tells the story of how Oppenheimer recruits his gang of scientists to build the bomb. And then there is another thread of narrative that is done in black and white, which tells like this legal post-war drama between how the what's the guy's name? Played by
Strauss.
Robert Downey Jr. Yeah,
Strauss.
Louis Strauss, right? It's about how he, tries to backstab Oppenheimer, and how Oppenheimer, as a result of Strauss' betrayal, is interrogated. So that whole part is played in black and white. And it's just these two like interweaving threads of narrative throughout the film. And I think the genius thing about this script is the way Nolan made it compelling, which is it's essentially two genre films at once, if you think about it. The black and white narrative is like a legal drama. It's like a legal thriller, which is why it's so compelling to watch.
Yeah.
And then the way he wrote the building of the bomb part is almost like a heist film, if you think about it. It's like it's almost like an Ocean's 11 style of heist film, where you have the ringleader. In this case, is Oppenheimer. In Ocean 11's case, is the George Clooney character, Danny Ocean, and he has his own gang, and the whole way the film is written and edited, right, is like this race against time. To build the bomb. And then I think that's the reason why it's so intense to watch. And it's not boring at all. Yeah, the stakes are literally life and death, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
E.T., you mentioned something about this cinema of bombardment, and how he, just put music at the forefront, and he doesn't care if you think it's not subtle or anything. He just kind of bring you along this kind of journey, right? At which point of his career you think he started to kind of move into that territory?
I mean, the sort of most straightforward answer was probably Batman Begins, but I think it was
agree.
But I think it was really more pronounced, a bit more pronounced with The Dark Knight, and
Yeah.
then definitely much more pronounced with Inception and Dark Knight Rises. And I think that's
Okay.
because he discovered the IMAX camera. So
Yeah.
the IMAX camera really intensified things. Firstly, I mean, in terms of image, but also because image is intensified, sound needs to be intensified as well.
Mm.
So that's why that whole bombardment thing came into play. And I
Yeah.
don't know whether you guys remember, back in the French New Wave days, right? There was this guy who talked about this term called camera stylo. I think it was
Yeah,
Alexander Ashram. Right? So he
yeah,
proposed this idea of camera stylo, right? Which means like to use the camera like a pen. And so Christopher Nolan uses the IMAX camera as his own pen
Yep.
to write the film
Yeah.
visually.
Yep.
At
Yep.
the same time, he needs a similar type of sound to accompany that
Yeah.
expensive image.
Yep.
So so I think he's one of the few people today that uses IMAX camera in an effective way.
Yeah.
And the fact that the film is about scientific progress, firstly, of technology, and
Mm.
secondly, also there's this whole trauma about World War II and all that historical significance of it,
Mm.
and being able to put one and one together, meaning science and technology and historical trauma together, and using the IMAX camera to shoot. And at the same time, Saping, you mentioned about the complexity of the screenplay, right? The layeredness. I think it's really a massive achievement for Christopher Nolan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
mm,
I think just to wrap up on Oppenheimer before we go to the next film, right? I just want to mention that I think Nolan, right, for all this, he's always in the news about how he has to use the real thing and everything, and he used this IMAX cameras. And from all this news, right, you always have this impression like, oh, he's going to give you some scientific technology advancement, some really bombastic thing, right? But actually, right, when you actually see the final product, right, it's very economical the way he shoots. The
Mm.
visuals, the cinematography, they look great, but they are not flowery, they are not pretty images, right? They are very economical, functional scenes that are being shot in very quick way as well. He shot this film in like what 50 days, or 60
yeah,
days. Yeah, incredibly quick. And I think this is something that actually puts him leagues ahead of major commercial filmmakers, because he knows when to turn things up, but at the same time, he knows when to just, all right, let me give you this quickly and go. Nothing to harp about, nothing to go too deep about here. Let's just move. And what you get is a very enthralling and dynamic kind of film, whether you like the film or not. Yeah. And like I told Seping, right, if you pass the James Bond franchise to him, right, he can direct it in his sleep.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah. Like if filmmakers that make that transition, they struggle so much because they are so caught up with, okay, I need everything to be fine here. It has to look good and everything. But if you put it in his hands, he'll just be like, all right, let's just do this, and then, great Bond film.
yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe just one more observation is, I think in a lot of traditional biopic, the camera is relatively neutral and objective. But
Yeah.
I think what Nolan has done consistently throughout all his films, right, is like intense subjectivity. Like to bring you into the head of the subject, whether it is the case of Inception, which is you're literally in someone's head, right, in a dream.
Yeah. Yep.
But in the case of Oppenheimer, I think you can literally feel the guilt and the fear that Oppenheimer has, after the bomb has been released. There's this whole like beautiful sequence of, everyone is celebrating, but he's in this almost like PTSD moment where, the people around him all like fade to ashes. Do you remember that scene? Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that kind of moments, I think is what make Nolan's particular type of biopic more compelling to watch than a traditional biopic. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, shall we move to the next film?
Sure.
Or else we'll end up speaking about Oppenheimer for the next 1 hour.
Okay, let's go to, maybe we can talk about the best director, which, I mean, Nolan obviously won, but let's assume Nolan isn't in the running for best director. E.T., who would you nominate to win?
You mean my own pick, is it?
Yeah, your own pick.
If it was my own pick, I would say, I mean, I would still pick Nolan because it's his time lah. He's been missing out.
Assuming Nolan's film is not in the running. Who else would you pick?
I would probably go with I would maybe go with Yorgos Lanthimos.
All right,
as an
great.
few choice.
Right.
Firstly, I think he has been making quite a number of films, of course, and he has reached a state where he is now kind of more accessible, more global, not like stuck in Greece or something like that. You know, with his films like Dogtooth and Alps. So and I think he's working with bigger stars also, and he has the resources now to pull out his, or rather to fulfill his rather idiosyncratic vision. And I think if there's a second choice for a director Oscar, I think he will be a good choice to win it.
Right. Yep. How about you, Seping?
For me, I think it's tough, man, because you have Scorsese, you have Lanthimos.
Yeah.
I think I would give it to, I think Lanthimos, I agree. But maybe my runner-up will be Scorsese.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, I will go with Justin Schreier for Anatomy of Fall. Yep.
Yeah. Maybe E.T., you want to give the audience a synopsis of Poor Things, and then we can talk about it.
Sure. Poor Things, I remember watching it at the SGIFF. So and it was screened a few times at the projector. It's about a kind of like mad scientist who kind of made someone alive, someone who's, I mean, officially dead to be alive, you know, and planted a baby brain into a grown woman, and then she needs to kind of find her way in society, in life, and finds her own identity. She makes a kind of a trip outside of her comfort zone, and really it's a film about liberation, I would say, and also equality, meaning how do we, when we are born, are we born with our defects, you know? So it's a story about how someone overcomes that circumstance and liberate herself, you know, through her journey. So
and how was the film for you, like when you finished watching it?
It was I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, I think it's probably my favorite Lanthimos joint favorite with Dogtooth. And it has probably one of the best burping scenes in cinema history. William Dafoe, you know, that bubble thing.
Right.
And for me, it's really about Lanthimos making films. He usually makes films about characters that don't fit the times that they belong to. Whether is it a dystopian society, like, you know, in The Lobster, or whether is it more period film, The Favourite. But the characters are a bit always very off-kilter. They seem to be in the wrong era. You know? So, and I like his films because there's a kind of like a sense of dissonance to it. So that is what made me to, you know, keep seeking out his works.
Right. Yeah. I feel like with Poor Things, right? When I was watching the film, right, 20 minutes into it, right, you just have this feeling like, thank God that people are giving money, right, to create this film. You know, I don't know how much it made, but you know, we are fortunate that money was spent to fulfill this vision. You know, this weird vision, and you can see this true line in his career from Dogtooth all the way to here. It's just quite fantastic to see that the same things that he's been doing, he's now expanded on this canvas. And not only you have a film that is done together with Hollywood stars, right? But you are also looking at a filmmaker with a very clear and astute point of view of the world as well. Yeah. And he knows how to transpose that into the characters and into the narrative. Yeah. I thought that the film was equally entertaining, but and it also functions well as this parable of sorts. Yeah, this metaphor, it between you could see it as a political allegory, between stronger and like weaker countries as well. How major countries like to kind of exploit smaller countries and kind of make use of them and after that try to take advantage of them. And while these countries, they go through like colonial amnesia and all that. But if those are things that people don't get out of it, it still serves as a very strong character piece, right? And it's great lah. From that you can see the absurdity of the times that we live in this very unique vision. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Emma Stone, who plays the lead, won Best Actress in a leading role for Poor Things. Yeah, I think, in fact, you can also say that her role in Poor Things isn't a traditional, character, right? Because she has to invent a lot of her own behavior. Because, basically, her body is revived from the dead, right? But then her brain is her daughter's brain. So it's like a 6-year-old kid in the body of like a 30-year-old or like a 25-year-old. So she has and no one, how to say, she has to play the role, the character of a kid in an adult's body. And I think the way she found that movement, it's just, and then you can see how her performance evolved as she like grows older, even though her body on the exterior remains the same. And I don't know if you guys observe any of the changes that she made to her performance as her character grew older.
What I observe is that she has to kind of grow up rather quickly as well. The film feel like it takes place in like 5 months. Yeah. But so you see her grow in like, suddenly she can form sentences so articulately, that kind. Yeah, but I don't know what was the specific like timeline in that film, but we just went ahead with it and you see the evolution kind of go through.
Because I watched in some interviews that she did, she said, right, how she tracked is she took the script and I think she broke it down into, I think there were 5 stages for her in terms of the growth of her character. So because I mean, as you know, films are shot not sequentially, right? Sometimes you shoot scene 50 first before you shoot scene 5. So because she marked up the different stages that a character goes through, so she when the scenes were jumbled up during shoot, she could track like, okay, so in this scene I know it belongs to stage 4. So stage 4, this is how the body is supposed to behave. This is how she's supposed to move or dance or throw a tantrum. Yeah, and I should rewatch it again just to track how her physical movement evolved. I think that would be really interesting. Yeah, and I think, I mean, that's why she deserves the win for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
And if you look
Yeah.
at the 2 times that she won Best Actress, right? First time with La La Land and second time with this, right? It's as complete. That's the best journey actress can get in Hollywood. On one hand, you have a film that is like your typical Oscar winner, musical and quite sentimental. On the other hand, you get this like weird literally Frankenstein of a film that is so idiosyncratic and artistic, right? That requires your artist to explore like very obscure and weird parts of herself, right? Well, it's a complete range, that an actor aspires to.
Yeah, and I was really, really impressed by the sex scenes because it's I as in maybe from a directorial point of view, I think it's really a feat of accomplishment because the way it was staged and acted, it's so funny, right? It's at the same time it's so horrendous because you have this like very disgusting character played by Mark Ruffalo, and he and Emma Stone are fornicating, and then while they are fornicating, they have some really hilarious dialogue, and even there is some physical comedy also from the way the sex was staged. I think those were just great. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I make a point about that, I think it's also the way Lantimos views such activities, right? Like sex and nudity in cinema, as more emancipatory. So meaning it's more about being one with oneself rather than something that's taboo, lah. So the fact that it has made it into something more of like a slightly more commercial film is is something to behold, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And E.T., I see that your woodwind you put for Best Actress is Lily Gladstone. I think everyone expected Lily Gladstone to win. And then your Dark Horse is for Emma Stone, who eventually won.
I think for me my pick would have been Emma Stone because when I first saw her in Poor Things, I was hoping she will get a nomination firstly and then winning the Oscar. But why I picked Lily Gladstone because she had that whole she had a slight edge, I would say, right? And but then I wasn't that particularly impressed by her performance. And I also felt that she would have been better served if she was in the supporting actress category. So I think she was pushed up to leading for some reason, but I think she would have given the Davin, right, the best supporting actress winner, run for her money with best supporting actress. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a good point.
Right. I think it's also a very interesting, right? You see, we talk about best director, best actress, right? You realize that the criteria to award the winner, right, there's so many ways to go about it, right? If you want to talk about directing, like who crafts the most impressive set pieces, or like this impressive technical abilities, right? Or then I guess you are in the Lanthimos and Nolan kind of you're leaning towards that. But then directing is also about getting the best performances, or maybe the most nuanced performances, blocking and staging such scenes. And in that regard, right, then you have Anatomy of a Fall and Killers of Flower Moon, who Scorsese is second to none when it comes to directing actors. So it's really quite hard to kind of pinpoint that. And with Best Actress as well, if we are talking about who is able to channel the most authentic and realistic nuanced acting, then you probably go with the Lily Gladstone and Sandra Haller. Yeah.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
I feel that at that level, the directors do not really direct their actors.
That's very true also. Yeah, they come to set kind of having done 90% of the work, waiting to synchronize into the big picture, and you just make adjustments. Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't direct Leonardo DiCaprio or Robert De Niro, man. They direct themselves.
Very fortunately, I'm quite sure that's kind of the case. You just kind of contextualize things to them. You stage them, like you stage them, right?
Yeah.
And the magic happens. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As in the director, I think stages the mise en scène, right? But ultimately, the performance is really up to the actor.
Right. Speaking of Lily Gladstone, should we move towards everyone's favorite director, Scorsese's latest opus, Killers of Flower Moon? Yeah. How do you feel about the film, E.T.?
I mean, firstly, when I first saw the runtime, I mean, like everyone, we were taken aback. How do we survive it? When I went into the theater, I watched it. It felt no more than 2 hours, although it's definitely much more than that. And I think it's a testament to, firstly, how Scorsese is a very skilled director, and also working with Thelma Schoonmaker, the editor. I mean, they've been working for so many decades. So the whole pacing of it is just it's it's pure flow. There's a flow to it. And it also helps that the composer, the late Robbie Robertson, who was also nominated for Best Original Score, one of my favorites of the year, also kind of accentuate that flow. His music was a bit more jazz-like, with a bit more raw qualities, instrumentations, and all that. So that really helped with the flow of things. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For me, Scorsese, it for a very long time, right? I always believed that he's just literally the best, lah. Like there is no one that really, when it comes to directing, he's just in his own league, lah. So even though he doesn't win, he always wins. Yeah, but it's understandable also because of the nature of the films, so to speak, right? If you look at the films he has been making, right, they just don't look like films that the Academy want to give any awards to. At most, they might award for the craft, but they probably won't, because they are like, hey, we give Thelma Schoonmaker like 3 of this already. I don't think we should be giving her any more Oscars. So, yeah, but if you want to talk about directing, right, I would say arguably he deserves to be the best director all the time. But it's just the films that he make, while they are fantastic and deep and layered and great in all aspects, right? It's just not it just doesn't have the hype and the pizzazz, to kind of to hold a conversation around Tinseltown, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I think Flowers Moon is a great film. But if you talk about from a purely like directorial point of view, I think Oppenheimer is a few notches up in terms of the editing and the staging and just the complexity of all the Los Alamos sequences. I think those are really well done. Whereas Killers of the Flower Moon, it has that grand like novelistic scope, but I think scene by scene it's still pretty like traditionally shot and staged, right? Yeah.
And also it feels more traditionally shot than some of Scorsese's previous works.
Yes.
Definitely.
I strongly agree with that.
So I think but he made it so effortless, It's just like
Yeah.
in a way, it's like going through the motions. If
Yep.
I may be a bit more negative about it, but
Yeah.
but he does it so well at such a high level of going through the motions that we as audiences, we see it on the screen. That level of artistry, that level of capability. So
I think ever since Silence, right? Scorsese, as age kind of follows, he kind of grows older, right? You see that he's kind of paring back in his visual style
Yeah.
a
I
lot,
was just
actually.
thinking.
Yeah, the way he directs scenes, right? He's not that. He doesn't go with the dynamic stuff that much anymore,
Yep.
right? He
Yep.
takes his time with it, and I guess that also explains for the runtime. But what you get, right, the flip side, right, the positive flip side of it, right, is that you get something very rich in terms of performance. Sometimes you get some quite fine performances because he paired back in the visual style, right, by just keeping to 2 mid shots going back and forth, right. The actors get that space to kind of go, whereas even in the Departed era, all the way to the, what do you call it, the Wolf of Wall Street, right? He's using the camera as a pen, right? Just kind of just flying here and there. He's almost like sometimes he can't resist the temptation to show his natural ability in using the camera.
Yeah, but for me, that's what makes Scorsese, and that's what makes him great. Yeah.
I think the Scorsese fans, they very much prefer those films lah. You give him a criminal, whether a mafia criminal or like a white collar criminal, he's gonna give you a 3-hour saga of fun things.
Yeah, I think he's just in a different stage of his directorial life. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, we should have talked about Cillian Murphy also when we were talking about Oppenheimer.
Oh yeah. I still feel that for me, I would go with the unpopular opinion, right, and say that I think Bradley Cooper should win the award.
It's underrated.
Yeah, it's underrated. It's just he's become the person that he's kind of take on the role that people would like to hate because of the way Maestro is, prestige, Oscar bait kind of films. Yeah, but that's just what people say. But I think what he brought to that role, right, it's astounding, man. And he will definitely get his due one day. I'm very, very sure.
Yeah, and the fact that he not only acts but direct, produces, so I think even if he say never wins an best actor Oscar, he might win something for best picture along the way.
Yep. That's true. Yeah. But what do you think about the best actor win? Do you think Cillian Murphy rightfully deserve it?
100%.
I mean,
it's hard to beat that now.
I like Cillian Murphy, although I also like Paul Giamatti's performance.
Yes.
This was the performance that made me tear up.
Yep.
And I wanted to hug at the end of the day. But Cillian Murphy, I think he really went into the interiority of his character. Being conflicted and all that. And I think he deserves the Oscar. And also as a sort of like a tribute to his work for over 20-30 years,
Right.
So
I told this to John a while back after I watched The Holdovers. It's about Paul Giamatti. I'm a huge fan of him, but I feel like he's more or less playing the same character in a lot of his work. Like have you watched House of Cards?
No, House of Cards, the Billions.
No, I don't think so.
Sorry, not House of Cards. Billions. Did you watch Billions? So
Billions?
in
No.
Billions, which runs over like 4-5 seasons, Paul Giamatti plays this very like curmudgeonly district attorney, and it feels like he is playing the same character in the holdovers. And that's why for me, even though I feel like he's definitely a good actor, but it feels like he's resorting to this book, this like palette that he has already mastered, and it feels like he's repeating performances. Yeah,
I still was able to see that this is quite a different role, even though on technique wise and also his inclination to acting such roles, right? But I was still able to see a different character that he was bringing to it. It's kind of like how, like, you know, when you see Tony Leung in a lot of his films, he has this type that sometimes he acts, you know, the silent
right.
kind of things. But you are still able to kind of break down that they are quite different characters, you know. The guy in Chongqing Express is different from the guy from In the Mood for Love, even though there are similar acting techniques that he's using. So for me, that was my case with Paul Giamatti. I was still able to see that that style of acting was still totally in service of this film set in the 70s.
Yeah, but I agree that Bradley Cooper for me would have been the dark horse.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, what Bradley Cooper did for Leonard Bernstein and what Cillian Murphy did for Oppenheimer, it's in that vein of you are completely transforming what you naturally are. You know, you take on a new voice, you change your posture, and in the case of Bradley Cooper, even his face looks so different thanks to the prosthetics. And I think that kind of work, it's just another level. Yeah. It would nicely bring us to talk about Best Supporting Actor. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr. won in Oppenheimer. But honestly, when I look at his competition, I feel like Mark Ruffalo is my dark horse. I don't know what you guys think.
Same here. Yeah, same here.
For me, this year, right, it was almost like 100% unanimous vote for him. So even for me, I thought Robert De Niro had one of the really, really good performances. I just don't think that they will award him for it, you know. But yeah, for me, Robert De Niro's performance in Killers of Flower Moon is a very, very, very good portrayal of how evil is, like, you know, how people can be evil but still normalize it. So I thought that was a great portrayal. At one moment you see him, you know, talking about killing, but at the next time, you know, when he's in the prison, right, and then there's this moment where DiCaprio received the news that the child just died, right, and then you see him start to like empathize with him and start doing the prayer, right, and you are like, wow, this is crazy, man. Like I can't believe this guy. But it's even surprising that, because, you know, De Niro has his share of crap films in the last 10 years. I'm sure we all, and he's just on autopilot mode in these films, right? And when you see him, Meet the Parents is quite good already. Like if you watch like films like Bad Grandpa, that guy, but when you see what Scorsese is able to kind of excavate out of him, right? Wow, is quite golden.
I think I also want to shout out to Sterling K. Brown. He's the guy who played the younger brother of the African American novelist in American Fiction. Well, I think there were moments in that film, right, especially when he displayed his vulnerability. So I mean, for people who don't know, in American Fiction, Sterling K. Brown's character the younger brother of the novelist, he's gay,
Yep.
and he's always been struggling with feelings of like being ostracized. And there was one scene in the film when I think their longtime nanny got married, and I think her husband, who also knows them, just I think went and gave him a hug, acknowledging his homosexuality, treating him as part of the family. And that moment, right, you see the look in his eyes, right, as he was being embraced. For me, that was like an Oscar moment, man.
Yeah.
I think he was really good in American fiction. And
right.
yeah. He's also in some other films, right? Like Black Panther.
Black Panther, correct. He was in Black
yeah,
Panther
he was
as
in-
the father of the bad guy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he was also in another film. Let me find. He was in The Predator.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, the 2018 one.
Speaking of acting awards, right? I would just like to say, ideally, right, if Wim Wenders' campaign team had more money, I think Koji Yakusho, right, 100%, right, should be in there. But I think it's as much as America can allow, right, to let people in. I think they can't let too many foreign films take a percentage.
The same case for Parasite and Song Kang-ho. He didn't get
Oh
in support.
exactly. Which,
If
if
he
you
can't
think
get
about
in,
it, yeah.
I mean, if you can't
Yeah.
get in, then I think
If-
someone
if-
like Yakusho, right, is even harder, I would say. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How about Best Supporting Actress?
Best supporting actress.
Kind of
Honest-
almost 100%. Yeah, she won a lot of the precursors. I think it's
Yeah.
called Divine Joy Randolph.
Yep.
She won a lot of the precursors. So no funny business there.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
best-
for me,
yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
I feel, for me, I feel like Emily Blunt should have won. I wasn't really impressed by Davine Joy's performance in Holdovers. Yeah. And
It's,
America Ferrera.
Yeah,
and
that
Jodie
one.
Foster,
Respectfully, I have no idea why America Ferrera's nomination is in there for. But you see, the Academy sometimes, right, has a history of surprising us with nominations where, like, the actor is just in the film for like it's a cameo, no? Like 9 minutes, and does some fine acting, and it's like, we'll give this person a nomination. I don't know if you watched the film A History of Violence before by Cronenberg. Inside,
No.
right, there's a performance by William Hurt, who shows up for 9 minutes, just 9 minutes. 9 minutes in the third act. He's missing for the entire film. You hear about this character. He shows up for 9 minutes, right? He gets an Oscar nomination. Yeah.
Wow.
So the definition of supporting actress can be 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 1 hour, but it can also be 9 minutes. Yeah. So, yeah. But I think Best Supporting Actress, they have a long tendency to kind of award like black female characters in a movie, especially when they are in a quite struggling position, right? If you look at the past 10 years, the winners, right? There's so many, like Viola Davis, and then what was her name? Is it Jennifer? No, not Jennifer. Jennifer Hudson was in Dreamgirls a few more than 10 years ago. What was
there
that?
was an actress in, is it Precious? I remember there was a film.
Yes, Precious. Monique. Yeah. And the one in I can't remember. She was in
12 Years a Slave, is it? Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah, that as well. And
That
also,
one she deserved it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I think that one that she deserved. Yeah.
yeah, and what Octavia Spencer. Octavia
Oh,
Spencer. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, who is like a frequent visitor to the best supporting actress category. So I suppose the question is, why are they not in best actress? you know, uh, yeah, the supporting category sometimes is quite a funny business also, where they find actors that are strong, but because the leading role is a bit too crowded, then they will go and campaign for the best supporting role. So Daniel Kaluuya, who was in what's that film's name?
Oh,
The
the
Get out.
Zodiac,
Get out.
the Messiah, is it?
yeah
Oh,
that one. No, but the one I'm talking about is the Judas one. The
oh, Judas, yeah.
Yeah, he's obviously a lead actor in that film. He won the best supporting actor. Yeah, so there's all these kind of things lah.
So for you guys, who would you have picked to win Best Supporting Actress?
I
I will
haven't.
go with Divine. I will go with Divine. Yeah,
I think same here, but I haven't seen Color Purple or Nia,
yeah,
so I can't really tell. Yeah.
yeah. Do you think that, right, the people who are voting, right, some of them they did not watch the other performances also. Yeah, just like, hey, this Divine, right, is quite a dynamite in this performance. Let's just vote for her. since we all expect her to win.
I mean, it's quite interesting to think like how do voters vote?
Yeah,
Do they really watch all the films, or do they kind of look at the and engage in water cooler talk? Oh, this one's in the bus. Maybe it's for her. Maybe this is her year. That kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because like in the Emmys, right, in the TV world, right, how they nominate best actors and how they judge, right, it's not by, you would think it's by the one season of the show, right, but it's actually one episode.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
apparently they submit an episode, a representative episode, and you're gonna judge best actor from there. Then you're like, huh? But I thought
Wow.
the whole character is based on the season. But then if you think about it, they'll be like, 1 hour not enough, man.
Yeah.
1 hour also good acting, right? Yeah, if you compare the feature, 1 hour is a lot. So yeah, quite interesting.
Well, I think if the judges for the Emmy have to watch the whole season, I think don't need to have full-time job really. Just every day watch TV.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's go to Best Original Screenplay. If I'm not wrong, Anatomy of a Fall won, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I won that.
Yeah, rightfully
Yeah.
so lah.
Yeah.
I think it's also a way to reward Justine Triet
Yeah.
for her, and she also missed out on the best international feature because France submitted Taste of Things. So
Yeah.
so I think and I think she deserves it lah, her screenplay. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it's strong lah. Though I would say, if let's say there is no Anatomy of a Fall, I think Past Lives has the qualities. Has the qualities of a script that that gets rewarded for originality lah. Yeah, it's one of those films where, yeah, the script kind of stands out. Yeah.
I would have given it to Maestro though.
Oh, that's interesting. What's the why would you have given it to Maestro?
I think it's just the ambition and the fact that it pulled it off. For me, Past Lives, the script, I feel is still a bit thin, a bit on the surface. Like I think the final film is nice to watch because the performance carried it. Like you fall in love with the characters, but I think the script itself, I feel like didn't dig deep enough into the lives of the characters.
Okay. Yeah. It's kind of just if you think about the story, right, it's split into like 3 different times, right? And each time, right, they kind of occupy the way the narrative is organized is quite interesting because
Yeah.
the middle part, right, where you talk about their correspondence over Skype, right? It was
Yeah.
probably like a few months or like within a year and everything. And then
Yeah.
it jumps into a present day. It's just like 2 days only. Yeah. 2,
Mm.
3 days ahead. So it's quite selective of what they want to present in the characters' lives in the film. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me it's a bit too episodic, if that's the right word.
Mm.
Yeah.
E.T., what do you think? Like the other screenplays in this category?
Other screenplays, I mean, we have May, December, My Show, Holdovers. I mean, I know a lot of people love May, December. I saw on Letterboxd a lot of my friends give it like 4.5 stars, 5 stars. I think for me, I didn't really resonate with it. I mean, the film, and similar to Todd Haynes' previous film, I think it's called Dark Waters, about some environmental pollution.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot that film is around.
So that one I felt had problems with pacing that I felt was also evident in May, December. And I don't think it's about the script. I think it's more about the pacing. So I think for me, Anatomy deserves it. Dark Horse Past Lives. But I also think that I mean, same thing you mentioned about My Show, because it has been looked past,
Yeah.
you know. And I feel did it win any Oscars? No, right? It was zero, right?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Zero. Yeah.
I was rooting for it as a Dark Horse to win makeup, makeup and hairstyling.
Yeah.
But then it went to other things, which is my will win. So in any case, yeah, I think original screenplay, it's Anatomy lah. It's the one, yeah, to beat.
Okay. How about best adapted screenplay? For me, I think objectively Oppenheimer should win, but since Oppenheimer is going to win best director, best film,
Yeah.
I think it's worth it to give it to American Fiction. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
In all honesty, right, I feel Oppenheimer, right, can even be considered in best original screenplay.
Yes.
Think about because the book, I did not read it. It's more like non-fiction, right? And he's turning it into like some of these are like quite original scenes, you know. So that feat itself is like it's like writing an original script. He's just taking the real life events in a sense. Yeah.
It's a very loose adaptation, and you can say the same thing for Zone of Interest. Yeah, I think if you look at, because it's based on Martin Amis's novel of the same name. If you compare the novel with the film, it's very different. I think Glazer only took like a little bit from the novel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Best adapted screenplay, Oppenheimer, probably. You know, if American Fiction didn't win. Yeah, in fact, it's actually quite a favorite to win, you know, because of just how many things is being packed into that script.
Interesting, because both Zone of Interest and Oppenheimer, they are nominated in the same category, adapted screenplay, and they both revolve around events in World War II, right? And interestingly, you know, just now I mentioned about Oppenheimer, the quote, "Theory will take you only so far."
Yeah.
In Zone of Interest, there's a quote which is more chilling. His particular strength is turning theory into practice. You know, same kind of, you know, development, but
interesting,
much more sinister in Zone of Interest. And Zone of Interest is one of those films where, I mean, people are you know, I have friends who are like asking, "Hey, when is Zone of Interest coming out in Singapore?" So we don't really know, but it's a really great film.
Yeah. With that, shall we speak about Zone of Interest? Yeah.
Because let's talk about Zone of Interest. E.T., do you want to kick off by giving the synopsis?
Okay. So it's a story about a commandant, a Nazi commandant in Auschwitz. And basically, it's a family. I mean, he has a wife, kids, and he has a dream house. But the problem is that the dream house, the residence that he's living in, is just beside the concentration camp, right? So the zone of interest is not the camp itself, but the house beside. So it's Jonathan Glazer's way of tackling the Holocaust in a different way. And to me, it's a antithesis of. You remember this film called Son of Saul?
Yes.
Yes.
The Hungarian Laszlo
Yeah.
Nemes director. So
Yes.
his approach is very intense, long takes, close-ups, always on the protagonist's face, and we see the atrocities, the tension, the fear, you know. But this one is an antithesis. It's like very observational, and a bit more cold and calculated in the approach, visual style, and all that. So, and I must say the sound design is amazing in this film.
Yeah.
And it won
Yeah.
Best Sound, which I think I was thinking that only Oppenheimer might win Best Sound,
Yeah.
but I was quite glad that this won.
Right. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about the film and how it made you feel?
For me, I would describe it as almost like a Michael Haneke film, but also quite anti-Michael Haneke, in the sense that you can see that very clinical, cold
Yep.
visual style, aesthetics. And the subject matter is also rather provocative in its
Right.
treatment.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's not even a single scene of violence in the film. Whereas Haneke, you sometimes often expect certain scenes of violence.
A jolt of violence.
Suddenly
kind of
somewhere coming up.
Right.
But at the same time, this film is also about a father's responsibility to his family. Just that the father is a Nazi, and that really brings out this idea about how, do we choose to because the sound design, there's always this low rumbling sound that occurs in the film,
Yeah.
which is the crematorium, the burning, and all that, and it's very disorientating to hear and very chilling. But yet, through the entire film, the characters don't even hear it. They don't seem to be affected by it. And
I think they do hear it.
They do hear it, but they have chosen not to hear.
Yeah.
And
I think it's because.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because it has been so much in the background that you don't notice. It's how we live our daily lives, and we don't really notice the sound in the background because it's just there for so long. Yeah, and honestly, I really don't know what to feel about this film. Obviously, it's very well directed. The mise en scène is very clear. The performance, there is no issue. But I really struggle to. I wonder what's the point of this film, in a sense that I'm glad E.T. you mentioned Son of Saul, because that was the first film I thought of when I was watching Zone of Interest. I love Son of Saul, and I think Son of Saul is great. It's because it's such a huge responsibility, and it's such a huge amount of difficulty to depict what Laszlo Nemes has depicted in Son of Saul. You literally need to follow this guy, and because obviously the approach to sound for both films, you can say, is quite similar. It's basically they don't show the actual violence, and they use off-screen sound to suggest the violence that's happening around them. With Son of Saul, there is a sense of you're following this guy, and there is a sense of moral responsibility that the filmmaker has towards his subject. So it's not gratuitous, right? By the things that he shows, but at the same time, it's important that he shows what the main character is doing in the camp. But if you look at Zone of Interest, I really wonder what Jonathan Glazer is trying to say. Is he trying to say that that there is this banality of evil thing? Is that what he's trying to say? Or is he trying to say sometimes evil can just exist in the most normal of circumstances? And even if it's all that, right, I still feel like what he has done doesn't really convey that, or it's not necessary to make a 2-hour film to talk about the banality of evil. And if you look at what the characters in like the family members, right, all of them are pretty much oblivious to what's happening, except the Central Healer's character's mom. She's the only character that has some kind of reaction towards the violence. I don't know if you remember near the end of the film, there's a huge fire, right? And then the mom looks at the fire, and the next day, she left the house. Do you remember that?
Yep.
That's the only moment in the film, right, where a human being has some kind of reaction towards the horrors of Auschwitz. Other than that, right, everyone is just like, okay, it's just another day. And for me, the film didn't really interrogate what that means enough. Yeah. So that's my huge issue with the film. and I also, you can also say, this film is depicting like the bureaucracy of whatever, right? But even if it is, I was like, what's the point of doing that? Yeah.
What
do you guys
I
think?
what I like about the film is that what I didn't quite like about the film first is I thought that the character work was a little bit cold for me throughout. Yeah, but that's just for my taste. Yeah. In terms of watching a film and watching a story about how people can do horrible things to another, I think I mentioned before that I much prefer the Killers of a Flower Moon treatment, where there's a much more kind of conventional story. The characters are more dramatically kind of entrenched to the story. So that's just me. I prefer that kind of a film that much. But having said that, I think because I only watched this film recently, right? And I find myself strangely thinking about the images and the scenes that go on in the house quite a lot. Yeah. I don't know, is it the way that it is being shot? Most likely it's because the way it's being shot as well, and the way that it's being photographed, the colors and everything, the juxtaposition of having that the this idea of a wall kind of separating them, the turning of the eye to evil and everything, that's one thing. But what I appreciated was how the characters, right, they're really people just working, and they are people who are not only just working, people trying to climb the ladder, trying to like climb up to be the CEO or something like that. Hey, you cannot move, or you move, how our privileges gone, that kind of thing. And that seems to be quite a huge thing. Even I think the majority of what the characters are going through, actually. So I quite like that. I like that, and that was able to let us see that, oh my God, this is the way social structures are, humans are, and some of these things will never change. But having said that, a film just about that is a little not is a little it's kind of not enough also, because it's like it's just about that. I want something more. Yeah. And they showed scenes like he probably has like a woman outside, right, with a local girl, Then after that, she go toilet to clean himself up, then go home. Those I thought were a little like, okay, like you're just putting there to show us like different facets of the character, right? So those I wasn't that big of a fan of. The what do you call it? The ultraviolet images of the girl.
Oh,
Yeah,
one.
putting the apples. That was a little experimental for me, lah. It felt like like Jonathan Glazer taking like his art installment kind of techniques into this a little. So that those parts I was kind of shut out a little bit.
Yeah, I felt like the first half of the film is good, but the conclusion just didn't lead us anywhere.
Right.
And maybe you could make the same argument for Under the Skin, right? Which I like a lot actually. But on hindsight, you can say that Under the Skin is pretty monotonous in the middle, because she's just doing the same thing to the guys over and over. But it's only near the end, right, where she meets this disfigured guy, which triggers some kind of humanity in her.
Right.
And then she doesn't kill him, and the movie ends after that. So on hindsight, maybe Under the Skin, you might come out feeling a bit underwhelmed if you watch it a second time.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time you watch the film, of course, you're like, oh my god, this is insane, right? Like, because you're seeing Scarlett Johansson doing all this.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you watch it a second time, it might not hold up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same way for Zone of Interest. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the other nominated films for Best International Picture?
Best international feature. Have to
So-
remind me what they are.
So I mean, we have Io Capitano, we have Perfect Days, Society of the Snow, and The Teacher's Lounge.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, Zone of Interest won Best International Feature, but for me, right, I think it was a tie between Zone of Interest and Perfect Days.
Same here. Yeah.
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 I mean, Perfect Days is perfect lah. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Perfect Days is really
It's-
quite astounding.
Yeah, I think it's as a perfect film as you can get from Wim Wenders.
It should have more nominations. That's what it is. Like best film, best original screenplay, best actor. Okay, yeah, that's about it. Enough.
Yeah, and I found some interesting like fun fact about Perfect Days. Like the film started out as in Tokyo there is the Tokyo Toilet Project, and the aim is to like transform public toilets in the area of Shibuya, and I think the town council there hired like 16 designers, like architects and designers, to come and design their own little toilet. So that's why in the film the lead character Hirayama, he goes to clean different toilets, right? And each of the toilet has a different design. It's because each of the toilet was indeed designed by an individual designer. So you have people like Toyo Ito, who designed VivoCity, designing one of the toilets. You have people like
Nice.
Tada Ando. Yeah, Tada Ando is a pretty famous architect, and you had Nigo. Nigo is the founder of A Bathing Ape. He also designed one of the toilets, and like Mark Newson, which is his modernist architect. Yeah, so the whole idea is the original idea was for Wim Wenders to do like a series of short films. But what Wenders re-proposed was to do a feature. Yeah. And I think this film also is very, very inspired by Ozu, like from the 4:3 aspect ratio to like the focus on just the ordinary. I think it's his homage to Ozu, and even the name of the lead character Hirayama, if I'm not wrong, it's a recurring character name in Ozu's films.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think we spoke about Perfect Days before with Vincent, who is the distributor here for the film. But E.T., just curious to because you programmed Perfect Days at Perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was the opening. It was the
students are
opening
not
film,
me.
right? Oh, right. Sorry, your
Yes.
students. Yeah.
So my students from Perspectives Film Festival, they program me opening film, and I think no, I mean it's a great film as you mentioned. It's also one of Wim Wenders' best films for quite some time,
Yeah.
I would
Mm.
say, and Koji Yakusho. Because recently I saw him in this film called Cure, the Kiyoshi Kurosawa
Oh yeah.
film.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was like 20 years younger.
Yeah.
Yet, you see some of the, like just now, John, you talk about the Tony Leung thing,
Yeah.
So the Koji Yakusho thing is also quite evident.
Yeah.
But in this case here, I think he really stripped down his performance. It's a bit more minimalist, very restrained. And I enjoy it a lot. It's very zen, like the film, the tone of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and I love the fact that this guy also listens to American oldies,
Yeah.
cassette tapes and all that. The whole
Yeah.
nostalgia and cassette collecting culture. There was a scene where they went to the record store and something like that, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
how should I say, like, it's a performance that is good because it also he's able to, he's a star in Japan, but he's able to inhabit a real character as well. And after that, with the appearance of the sister, right, you could tell that this guy probably comes from, I guess, some sort of sophisticated family or anything. And then it kind of comes full circle because he looks very elegant as well, right? But the way he kind of positions his body language, right, the way he cleans and all, it serves different purposes. One is that, we get a story of that, but it does what great films can do, right? It really makes you look at this and like, you know what, this is actually what life actually needs, and it's very hard to strike that balance, right, to get that simplicity without being sentimental or without being too simplistic, right? And I appreciate that, it's in the hands of Wim Wenders as well, because I think there are a lot of Japanese films that are quite similar, but they would probably be unable to resist the temptations to fill in a little bit too many things. Yeah. They would like you to, they would shoot for the close up of the bento box and the chopsticks opening and ikakakimasu, that kind of thing. And then they will have a J-rock soundtrack at the back, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think Wim Wenders, he has a very traveler of the world view. In fact, a lot better than many filmmakers. He's one of those that first started making international films everywhere, and really able to blend in both his unique European touch into this great American landscapes. So long it is still in the independent kind of sensibility, he's always going to bring good things to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys seen Wim Wenders' documentary Tokyo God?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I know it's in I have a DVD of it.
Yeah. It's actually strangely quite similar to this film in some sense, in the filmmaking. Yeah, it's very stripped down. It's very minimal as well. Yeah.
All right. And I think the other film that I watched recently was The Teacher's Lounge. It's directed by this Turkish German director. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Katak, I have no idea. And it's so good. I know ET, you programmed it for SFS. Do you want to give us a synopsis?
I think thanks to Thomas from Lighthouse Pictures, he brought it into Singapore.
Yeah.
And when I watched it, I realized, okay, I think this one, we need to do something about it, program from our Singapore Film Society. But basically, it's about a teacher who is suspected of stealing, right? And the director just weaves this rather, one might say, small event, although stealing is a crime. I mean, but it's one of the smaller crimes, at least in the context of the school, where sometimes stealing is also part and parcel of school life. Especially we have more mischievous boys and girls who do this sort of stuff. Sometimes for fun, sometimes for real. So I think it's really tense. And I remember I wrote in my review of it to say that because I'm an educator myself, so this film did to what Jaws did to swimming, this film did to prospective teachers. I think for experienced teachers, it's fine. Experienced teachers are fine because they know what to do. But for prospective teachers who are entering the education field, I think this one will scare them, to deal with like parents, students, the staff, and the whole idea about misinformation, judgment, prejudgment, and all that surveillance. There was like recording, whether we can record the staff room, things like that. I think it's a very modern film, but at the same time, it also tackles very familiar themes.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was telling John a few days ago, I think if you talk about the tradition of like humanist cinema, I think this is like one of the best. And I'm thinking of people like, Asghar Farhadi, especially A Separation. I feel like there's a lot of tonal similarities in the way both these directors approach the film. Even on a moral level, right? I think that they're dealing with characters that, out of their own good intention, they do something, but it leads to, like negative consequences that leads to other negative consequences, and then you realize that the whole tapestry of people who are involved, even what you might call a antagonist, actually they have their own legit reasons for doing what they do, and it's like, so in the teacher's lounge, the thief is actually one of their colleagues, and it's implied in the film that she is struggling to make a living, which leads her to steal, and similarly, in A Separation, I think one of the characters, if I'm not wrong, got knocked over the stairs, right? And I think it was a pregnant lady who got knocked over the stairs and she miscarried. But the guy who, in a fit of rage, like pushed her over the stairs, did it because the lady was, not taking care of the death of his father well, right? His father has some dementia. And I think she had a lapse of judgment, and end up the father wandered out into the street. So the guy had legit reasons to be angry, but he accidentally knocked the lady over. So and then A Separation takes you into the backstory of the lady, and you start to feel like everyone is in their own predicament, and they do things out of the circumstance of their life. They have no choice in a way, and it's like this kind of cinema that is so missing, right? Like I feel like watching this film, like this is what films should be about, man. Like we love the Nolan films, the James Cameron films, but sometimes cinema can be as simple as exploring moral predicaments, like Teacher's Lounge and A Separation. Yeah, and the way it's written is almost like a mini thriller, right? Yeah, like you feel this intensity, like, oh no.
I think Seping, you mentioned about as compared to like the bigger films like Nolan's films and things like that, these kinds of films like the Asghar Farhadi, Teacher's Lounge, they are microcosm of society, whether it's a family, a school. So the milieu is very familiar to us. Although it
Yeah.
might be a different context, like Iran or Germany.
Yeah.
Which is why I think we also gravitate towards such films when it's done really well and proves the point of something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just got reminded of this French film that is also set in the classroom called The Class. I think it was released in 2008 and it won the Palme d'Or.
That's a very good film. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also in the tradition of humanist filmmaking.
I wonder what happened to the filmmaker. Haven't been making many films. Lauren Canted. Yeah. 2008. The Class. Yeah, it won the Palme d'Or in 2008.
Yeah, for me, if it was me, right, I would give first prize for international feature to Perfect Days. I think Teacher's Lounge would be my runner-up. Yeah.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, the Society of the Snow, the Spanish entry is directed by the guy who did The Impossible with Naomi Watts.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy has quite an interesting filmography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
J.A. Bayona. Yeah.
Yeah, J.A. Bayona. I watched another film by him, Monsters Call.
Jurassic World. He did Jurassic World,
Serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Dominion, is it? The sequel.
Crazy.
I really love Monster Calls. Fallen Kingdom, sorry. Fallen Kingdom. And then Monster Calls, I love it.
Yeah, it's quite a nice fantasy film ahead. Yeah. Monster Calls.
He did the Orphanage as well, the breakthrough film, horror film.
Oh yeah, no wonder. Yeah, that's the.
This guy is quite versatile.
Yeah. Actually, how many films he did? Oh, okay. Yeah, Monsters Call. That's also not say a lot of film, right? 5 films only. Yeah, Orphanage, Impossible, Monsters Calls, Jurassic World. Okay lah, in the big leagues already.
Yeah, you do Jurassic World, you're in the big league already. Did you watch Society of the Snow, E.T.?
I did because I have been following J. Bayona's trajectory as a filmmaker. So, and I was also interested in the subject matter because about the Uruguayan plane crash in the Andes. And it was previously there was a Hollywood film called Alive, which wasn't that good. So I think this one I heard and I think when I watched it, it really pays respect to the victims and also the survivors of the disaster. Although I felt the film was slightly long-winded, could be tighter.
But I think that is also quite interesting that the film, and it's probably a good choice also. It's it's a straight release to Netflix, right? Yeah, and I think it probably made quite an impact when it got released to Netflix. I think quite a lot of people watch it as well. Whereas if you were to straight release to cinema nowadays, they might just kind of
quite difficult.
Yeah, it's quite difficult.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Best Animated Feature. I mean, for me, it's a tie between The Boy and the Heron and Across the Spider-Verse.
Right.
I honestly, I was rooting for Spider-Verse. I think it deserved it more.
I feel. Yeah. Sorry. E.T., go ahead.
Oh no. I mean, I'm one of the biggest Hayao Miyazaki fans ever.
Yeah.
I've watched his films so many times, but I was quite underwhelmed by his Boy and the Heron.
Right.
I was rather enthused by Across the Spider-Verse, so I was wanting it to win. Although the first film won before, so winning a second time.
Right. Yeah.
So in a way, I'm quite glad that Miyazaki won it again,
Yeah.
because he won it for Spirited Away, right?
Yeah.
So
I like that he
it's
won
a weird,
and
weird
probably
feeling.
didn't care as well. Yeah. I really liked the film. I think I probably enjoyed it much more than both of you. But I really wouldn't have any problems if Spider-Verse wins lah, because it's I was telling Seping earlier that the film was really good. It was fantastically made, but it was just so many colors bombarding, right? That after a while I was like, I cannot. It's very tiring for me to watch. But if you really judge based on the criteria of animation, right? And we are talking about always trying to push this medium, right? Then based on that criteria, right, then by all means this film should definitely win, because it's it's the animation that you see in this film, right, is I would say a representative of this generation's aesthetics. You know, it's pushing things to the lo-fi already, but then it's using this new 3D rendering, whatever. Because you look at the recent what is that? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That film wouldn't exist, right? In terms of its aesthetic and style, right? If there's no Spider-Verse, it's using this crayony, hand drawn mixed with 3D, set it in New York, but getting Gen Z kids to like voice it, and then but putting 90s hip hop music, right? It's a whole, it's very sticker book collage kind of animation, where even if you don't favor the whole thing, there's always gonna be some vibes in it, right? That you will like. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that very much with Spider-Verse. In that regard, they are completely able to kind of detach away from their entire universe in the Marvel side of things.
Yeah, but for me, it's not just about the aesthetic. I think that the aesthetic is used to such great effect because it's the whole idea of how they exploit the Spider-Man mythology. Like we all know, right? I think most people know Spider-Man and the death of Uncle Ben, and Spider-Man and his relationship with Gwen Stacy, and so the whole film just plays on these two key relationships.
Right.
And this relationship is multiplied across all the different multiverse. And because it's different multiverse, so the filmmakers had really had fun in using different animation aesthetic to convey each of the different multiverse, and they just bring it all together, right? And the whole like myth making of the whole Spider-Man, it just works lah. I think that's why the film, the aesthetic is not like very random or arbitrary. Like it works to help the story, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and whereas The Boy and the Heron, you can think of it as the polar opposite of Spider-Verse, where instead of bombarding you with like psychedelic images, it's really like a pat down aesthetic, and the whole idea maybe is a more transcendental intention to make you feel like, to make you feel something beyond the ether in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Boy and the Heron, right, while it's also trippy in its own right, it's very linear also. It's very linear. It's one event, result another event, and then another event, you know. Whereas Multiverse is like 10 things at once, and it jumps here and jumps there. So yeah, that was a very, very key difference, I guess.
You know, I had this thought just came into my head. You know, Paul Schrader, he wrote this book called what do you call that? Transcendental. Something, right?
Transcendental
Oh yeah, I remember that.
cinema or something.
Oh man, I can't remember
Wait,
what the
let
title
me find
is.
it. Transcendental style in film. I feel like what Miyazaki does with his films, you can put it in that category.
Right.
Yeah,
Nice.
like he really makes you feel something, that is hard to put to words.
Yeah. I think you should go and like Facebook Paul Schrader and ask him what do you think? I think it really fits what you are speaking. Do you agree? Yeah. Are there any of
Yeah.
the other nominees in the best animated feature both of you watch?
No.
I didn't see any. I mean, I wanted to see Elemental, but I didn't have time for it. Then Nimona, I know it's on Netflix, right? Isn't it? Maybe I'll try to watch it.
Right.
But I'm quite curious about Robot Dreams because it's about a dog and a robot,
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Is it a fair statement to say that in the animation industry in Hollywood, if you were to make an animation, you stand like maybe automatically stand like 5% or 10% chance to be nominated just because of how there's just not many animations being produced.
In Hollywood, is it?
Yeah, or maybe just in the world in general, excluding Japan.
I think it's usually the Oscars for best animated feature usually skew towards Hollywood projects.
Right.
Like the Disney or Pixar stuff. But occasionally you have like one or two from Japan or Europe, that
Yeah.
just pops into the animation category.
Yeah.
But I wish more of such films are being spotlighted.
Yeah, I remember one year they nominated Mirai. You remember?
Which one? What film was
This
that?
Japanese animation film Mirai.
Okay. This
Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah,
That's a great
Hosoda,
film.
right? Mamoru Hosoda, I think. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
But they have never nominated, say, Weathering with You or
Oh yeah.
or
Suzume.
Suzume.
Yeah.
And what's the Your Name, right? I'm
Yeah.
surprised they
Mm.
never nominated that, because if anything, that would be like a representative from the anime world. I mean, they probably have a lot of
They did nominate Mirai in 2018, but that year,
Yeah.
Spider-Verse won. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So in every other
And
year, Toy Story is not winning.
yeah, I'm looking at the past year's winners for best animated feature. Last year, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio won.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that? I haven't seen it.
I haven't
Oh, it's
seen
good.
that. I haven't
Really
seen
good.
that.
Worth seeing. Yeah.
But Wes Anderson is actually a two-time two-time nominee, right, of best animation. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with his stop motion films. So
Yeah,
that's quite
Isle of
interesting.
Dogs.
Yeah, and
And
Fantastic
what's the
Fantastic.
other one?
Yeah.
That's actually
Actually,
a
I feel
very good film. Yeah.
yeah, I feel Wes Anderson is a better animation director than a live action director.
Speaking of Wes Anderson, he won his first Oscar this year in the best short film category.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's a bit. It's a bit. You're happy for him, but it's also a bit sad, right?
Yeah, it's a bit random also. Like,
Yeah.
why you go and be in that nominee? Like, you deprive another upcoming filmmaker of a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. E.T., do you want to quickly talk about best documentary? I haven't seen any of the nominated films. I think you have.
I have only seen two, 20 Days in Mariupol and Four Daughters. 20 Days in Mariupol is, of course, about the Ukrainian war, the invasion, Russian invasion of the Mariupol city. It's a rather harrowing film. It's made by an Associated Press journalist who was there. He has his camera and then he shoots, and he doesn't want to leave because he wants to document. And it's painful, but but one of the things about the film is that it said that it needs to be painful to work. So I'm not surprised that it won the best the Oscar for best documentary, and because of the whole context of the Ukrainian war. Uh, Four Daughters, I saw it at the French Film Festival last year. Interesting. I think it's by Kauta Benhania, who made a couple of films. I remember one film, I can't remember the title, but here she really did the meta film thing to the max. So she used real life subjects. So it's about a mother who has four daughters, but two of the daughters have left them because they have been radicalized, and so they join the terrorist groups and things like that. But two daughters remain with her. So in order to have the two missing daughters appear in the film, they have to hire actors to play them. They even had to hire an actor to play the mother in case the mother at some points in the film couldn't do it because of emotional reasons. So it's a very interesting interplay of acting, performance, memories, truth, trauma, everything. It runs the gamut. And so it's that kind of film, very meta exploration of such heavy themes. The rest of the feature documentaries, I'm not that familiar. I know that To Kill a Tiger is about an Indian father who is voicing out about a gang rape of his daughter, right? And trying to break taboos in terms of seeking justice. I haven't really seen the film, but it seems like an important subject matter to watch.
Yeah.
And the Bobby Wine People's President, I think it's about Uganda, right? But I'm not so familiar with that context.
Okay.
About someone who was oppressed and then rose up or something.
Right.
Fight against injustice. And then Eternal Memory, for a long time they couldn't decide who was the person who will receive the Oscar for if it had won. So
Yeah.
I feel like a few days before then they put up the name.
I understand. Yeah.
Eternal Memory is about dementia and things like that. And you see quite a number of these kinds of films popping up once in a while. Like Gaspar Noé did Vortex, also about dementia. So I think 20 Days in Mariupol probably deserves it just because of the context of it and how immediate and recent these events are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So, just to wrap up this episode, what are your overall thoughts on how this year's Oscars went?
I think it was fairly predictable, especially for Oppenheimer's win. The probably a few tension points were whether Lily Gladstone or Emma Stone. That was quite up in the air at the last moment. And there was also this thing about Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti. But I think Cillian ultimately prevailed. But the rest of the nominations, I feel pretty much quite straightforward.
Yeah.
Poor things cleared all the production design, costume design, makeup, all the art stuff. Okay, one interesting thing is Godzilla -1 won Best Visual
Yeah,
Effects.
great for them.
Mm.
They came and they conquered.
Amazing, and
Yeah, makes me want to watch the film even
it's
more.
good that they rewarded something like that rather than like the creator or worse like Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that. So
Yeah,
so I think it's
I think they really deserved it because apparently the budget of Godzilla -1 is like $15 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is insane if you think about it.
Whereas the Hollywood Godzilla is like, I don't know, 150 million or something. It probably look like not even half as good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the film, but if you watch the trailer and some of the clips, it's a legit, and the film is not just a Godzilla film, right? It's set
it's
in
a
post World
post-war
War
film.
II Japan.
World War II. Yeah, not World War II or
Yeah.
post-war. Yeah.
Post World War II. Yeah. So
Post-World War
it's
II.
both so it's both a sci-fi Godzilla film and a historical film made for $15 million.
Fantastic.
It's
nice.
It's insane, yeah. And I love it. When they got to receive the prize, they were holding like Godzilla figurines. So like,
Yeah.
it's something like only the Japanese would do. Like,
Yeah.
And then they even had to put down the Godzilla figurine because it couldn't have the hands to hold the Oscar. Yeah.
yeah. I love it, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
How
What
was
are
the
your?
Oscars for you, John?
I thought that this is actually quite a good year. You know, looking at the films, it's a good
Yeah.
year lah. It's not the. I think just now I was telling you the Nomadland year is like like there's just some years I don't know, is it COVID or what? It's just the
This year was satisfying year.
it's a satisfying year. You know, you get your big filmmaker like Nolan and Scorsese, and then you get this upcoming European filmmakers, and then you got like Yorgos Lanthimos, and then Jonathan Glazer and Justin Trite. You know, that's a good 5 best director nominee category, as good as it can get. So and it feels like it's one of those. It's a trend that you will keep going on, where I guess every 2 years you will see an international film director being nominated as well. I remember the year that Drive My Car won. I was super happy when they nominated Ryusuke Hamaguchi for Best Director. Who is also actually sorely missed in this year's Best International Film because they sent Perfect Days instead. But actually, this is a strong Japanese year. There's Monster by Koreeda. There's Perfect Days, which and then there is Ryusuke's new film. So this is good lah. I'm curious to hear from you, E.T. What do you think is the importance of the Oscars for the world of film in general?
Usually it's it's definitely American skewing because it's American show. So it's about the stars, about the red carpet, a bit like Cannes Film Festival. But then it's a bit but there are always narratives during Oscars. Whereas in the other festivals like Cannes, Venice, Berlin, although there could be narratives, like Pedro Almodovar has not won a Palme d'Or before, things like that. Should we award him this year? So there are still narratives, but then again, it's also depending on the jury. It's different every year. Oscars is the pool of Academy voters, but then it's getting more diversified, which is good. So that's it's about views. About views.
It's exciting, you know, like it or not. You can always be in the school of thought saying that it's just a silly award, but I think people really give a damn a lot about Oscars, and there's something about it. You look at this footage, right, of people reacting to Oscar nominations, right, all over the world, you know, their reaction is huge, you know. It really stands for something for them. It's like, oh my god, there's an Oscar, because I don't know, it's both enigmatic, but at the same time, you know, it's so synonymous with the world of movies itself, lah. So
no, I was just thinking, is the Oscars important or not? And honestly, it doesn't really matter. For me, I think because the Oscars has on multiple occasions disappointed me with the the results. For many years, I've kind of like put it out of my mind, and you know, it's something that I don't really follow very closely. But I think this year in particular, I think it's because of Nolan's win that I feel like, okay lah, I'll give the Oscars another chance.
Yeah. It's
I legit cannot believe this is Nolan's first Best Director and Best Film win.
Yeah.
And it just feels like history has been corrected.
I mean the Oscars is also the same awards that deprive Scorsese of Goodfellas, and Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Which 3 times he should have won Best Director. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
terrible things have happened. I mean, but people remember the films even more.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just happy for Nolan and happy that he finally deserved what he got.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best thing is to see Nolan and team win, because it's good to see the leading major motion picture filmmaker of our time get kind of resolve his narrative. Like if you watch wrestling like I do, when a very deserving wrestler finally make it to win the world title, even though it's all being scripted, it's like, yes, they wrote the script right. Yeah, so in a way it's just like that also, because everyone make good films with their own set of merits, but they are like, we decide that this guy is going to get the world champion.
Yeah, and every year I will watch Inception, The Dark Knight, like at least once, and every time you watch it, right, you come away impressed by what Nolan has accomplished.
Yeah.
And recently I also rewatched Oppenheimer, and it's just insane what he has done.
Yeah.
It's really mind-boggling like how he pulled it off.
Correct. Okay.
And with that, we've come to the end of this episode. Thank you, E.T., for joining us.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you everyone. Everyone. Thank you, E.T.
Yeah. And we hope to see y'all in the next episode. And next year, E.T., we'll ask you back on to talk about the Oscars 2025.
Where we just basically talk about Dune 2, I guess.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
If Dune 2 is not nominated, I'm gonna flip table.
Excited about it, and thanks everyone. I appreciate the time and all that to do this. Cool. So thanks guys.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.